In last week's Torah portion, we discussed that the 10th commandment, lo tachmo, do not covet, of not being jealous, is not just a prohibition of ethical behavior, but it's also a validation that being jealous is a valid emotion. And the Torah is not just giving us an instruction about what not to do and what not to feel, but a remedy, the gift of how to overcome and transform our lives to be happier and more contented people by recognizing that the emotions that we feel are not negative or unnatural. It's quite the reverse. By validating them, Torah tells us that they are real, but God gives us the gift, the strength, and that we have the capacity to overcome it and to transform ourselves to be giants of emotion and of character. In this week's Torah portion of Mishpatim, the Torah takes it one step further and continues on that theme. There are many, many laws in this week's Torah portion. As a matter of fact, the portion of Mishpatim means laws. It's a portion of laws. But one of the fascinating and unique laws of the portion goes as follows. It says that if you see the donkey of one of your enemies, it is laboring and collapsing under its load, under its immense weight. And then the Torah says you will be inclined to walk away, to avert your gaze, and not help, because this donkey belongs to your arch enemy. Nevertheless, the Torah says you must go and surely help the poor animal and help it realign the load and take off some of the burden. And very unusual and fascinating instruction, but an unbelievably profound lesson for life. You see, the fact that the Torah tells us in Hebrew, v'chadalta me'azov lo, that you will be inclined and you will attempt. You are to think twice, should I help or should I not help? Azov to azov imo, you shall surely help, means that the Torah recognizes that it's a valid emotion, that a person would be reticent to help their enemy, to help someone who's not their friend, someone who has hurt them in the past. And yet the Torah says to be a Jew is to be valiant and to know that we can overcome our pettiness, we can overcome hurt, we can overcome injury of our past to become greater and better angels for it. The full verse reads that if you see the donkey of your enemy and you don't want to help it, you should do it anyway. If we take it one step further, the mystics tell us that it's a reference not just to a mortal enemy, but it's a reference to the enemy within us, our evil inclination, that is always trying to put us down, that is always trying to fight us. And when read in this way, it takes us on a whole different mystical dimension. If we shall see the donkey of our enemy, the donkey in Hebrew, the word chamor, comes from the word chomer, which means materialism or physicality. And it's our enemy because it wants everything that we don't. It pushes us in every direction, in every arena, and every impulse that's harmful to us. V'chadalta me'azovla, but we see that it's falling under its burden. It's struggling. And we will say, but why would I want to help? Why would I want to help my evil inclination? I should let it fall. Good riddance to my evil inclination. Azov ta'azov imo, you shall surely help, the Torah says. You should realize that we are an integrated, holistic individual, that we cannot live without only part of our personality. That the inclination, the evil inclination, the chomer, the materialism, the urges, the vices that we have in life are not just there to be repelled, but they are there to be transformed in our lives. And sometimes they are overburdened, sometimes they are overwhelmed, and we feel overwhelmed, and we say, I can't handle it. I don't want to live a split personality, a Jekyll and Hyde. And so we do things to reject that lesser part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that we don't want to recognize, we don't want to look at. And we want to focus only on the spiritual self. The Torah says no. God gave us a physical soul, a material soul, and a godly soul to work in concert, to work in unison. They need each other. Help the material soul lift up its burden and transform itself, not only to be no longer an enemy, but to turn your enemies into a friend. The greatest gift the Torah gives us is not only to run away and from our enemies, but to make an enemy into a friend, transformation of darkness to light. That is the ultimate journey of life, the Kabbalists teach us. And the last three words, just as the last three words of last week's Torah portion, V'chol asher l're'echa, are transformative. They're teaching us that to look at the whole picture of our friends, and therefore we can appreciate and be more compassionate of our friends when we take into account the totality of their existence, not look at just part of their lives, but recognize that they are also a holistic whole. We can better relate to them and not judge them as harshly. So too in this week's Torah portion, these last three words are also just as instructive. Azov ta'azov imo, the Torah says. Literally translated, it means, you shall surely help him, referring to the donkey. Or according to the mystics, you shall surely help your material, animalistic soul be engaged and help it transform into something positive. But on a deeper level, the word azov ta'azov imo, the word ta'azov can also mean it will surely help you. That when we do so, when we reach out to someone who's struggling, when we reach out to someone who we think is an enemy, we will find out that they are a potential friend. When we reach out to our animal soul, and initially we are afraid, we are fearful of it because we don't understand it, azov ta'azovimo means that eventually the word ta'azov means it will help you. Imo, with it, with you, you will be helped with it. Very often in life, the things that we do for someone else, when we are stuck in a rut and we cannot help ourselves and we don't know what to do, what does the Torah say? Look for someone else. Look for someone who is less fortunate than you. Help them, because when you help them, ta'azov imo means you will be helped with them at the same time. The surest way to help ourselves is to reach out and help somebody else. And the more estranged we are from them, the more we perceive them as our enemy, and the more we reach out and help them and make them a friend, we will be helped along with them as well. Shabbat Shalom.